for the fugitive former police officer Christopher Dorner. There are already questions about the tactics the police used. CNN Crime and Justice correspondent Joe Johns is working this part of the story for us. Joe, what are you finding out?
Well, this is about how the fire got started. The police have not addressed this issue conclusively, and it is likely to be the focus of a very careful investigation. Audio on the ground from a CBS 2 KCAL reporter mentioned a smoke grenade, and then in the chaos, someone, we don't know who, was heard yelling. Real-time police audio transmissions at Big Bear Lake were preserved, and the second guessing started immediately. Though we don't know how the fire started, to the untrained ear, after authorities concluded they had someone in this cabin in the woods, it sounded to some like they could have intentionally set fire to it to try to smoke out the suspect.
We're going to go forward with the plan with the burner. Got it.
About 23 minutes later, an early reference to burners being deployed.
This whole 61 Lincoln, burners deployed and we have a fire.
Copy, 7 burners deployed and we have a fire.
A former U.S. Marshal and expert on fugitive apprehension told me that based on the audio, he does not believe the authorities on the scene tried to burn down the house.
At that point, it could be just bravado, but again, there's no operating plan that calls for torching a home in order to get a suspect out.
The term burners heard on the audio was once used as slang for tear gas canisters, though police generally no longer use gas that can catch fire.
Well, obviously, we want to gas the individual out of the house. They're non-incendiary type devices, so they wouldn't have any possibility of catching the house on fire.
Does it sound like the authorities, the deputies, the police did anything wrong?
At this point, no. I don't think they did anything wrong.
The final word could come from an investigation and autopsy. Former medical examiner Jonathan Arden says a coroner has a pretty good chance of determining whether fire killed the suspect or if he killed himself to avoid being taken alive.
Most people who
At this
die
point,
from fires die
they
from
haven't even
inhalation
recovered
of
a
the
body
smoke
yet.
and the toxic products. So we look for soot down into the airways. We look for carbon monoxide in the blood. And those are the indications of someone who was alive in the fire. And if you have enough of those poisons, basically, somebody who died from the fire.
Some law enforcement experts say the way this played out was predictable, that Dorner had expected to go out this way in the proverbial blaze of glory. The question was whether he'd be shot by someone, for example, a police officer, or if he would shoot himself. Wolf?
Lots of questions. I'm sure the investigation will continue. Precisely what happened. Thanks very much, Joe, for that report. Let's dig a little bit deeper right now with our CNN contributor, the former FBI Assistant Director, Tom Fuentes. Tom, I'm going to play some more clips from the police scanner, and then you'll make some sense out of what we're hearing. Listen to this.
Guys, be ready on the number 4 side. We have fire in the front. It might come out the back. Kind of like one-shot fire from inside the residence. We have ammo exploding inside there. Is there any propane cylinders or anything back there we need to be aware of? No, not that I can see from my position. You want to have fire start putting water on it once the roof starts to settle down a little bit and like it's starting to collapse. Give me some time here. We're not quite there. I still have the 2-3 corner that is vulnerable. And we still have ammo going off in the fire.
All right, Tom, can you make some sense out of what we just heard?
Well, it's actually very difficult to make sense of it. You have, we don't know the exact timeline of these broadcasts in terms of the beginning of the fire to the end of the operation. And, I'm just not certain of how this fits into the whole picture. We'll probably know more from the sheriffs later, but I don't know if they're going to want to talk about it in too much detail this soon after the event. I would agree with the marshal that it's not a normal plan. I've been a tactical commander. I've been in contact with many of my colleagues who are also tactical commanders and at the state and local level as well, and they're just not familiar with this type of plan being used this way. But that doesn't mean that the sheriff may not have a good explanation for deliberately setting the fire if they did. Now, I'm speculating, but one possible explanation would be that they may have wanted to start the fire at one corner in order to flush him out the opposite corner and then have those SWAT team members be the ones that would engage in a firefight and not have all of the police officers that were surrounding this location all be shooting at once, therefore shooting at each other in a crossfire. That's a possible explanation. We'll need to hear from the sheriff if that's what occurred.
How troubling is it, if it is troubling to you, that this killer was apparently in this vicinity, in this area, for several days, right, I guess, under the thumb, if you will, of the San Bernardino police?
I think it's very troubling. The questions that I would have is going back to the very beginning of the incident at that location. They find the truck last week, burnt. They searched, we thought they were searching every residence that had people in it, as well as the abandoned shacks and cabins around the mountain and in the entire tourist area. Now we're getting some mixed information that they may not have bothered to search places that were residential homes, occupied or unoccupied. That doesn't make sense. Also, you have, every police department in Southern California, the Southwestern
People
United
watching this need to
States,
question why the CNN cut the live feed hours before the fire started.
All of the assistance he would
If you're
need.
not already, I'm sure you are. If you're watching this, you're probably questioning everything.
There only had a little over 100 officers conducting these building searches on the mountain and the manhunt on the mountain. And then shortly after, we hear that it was scaled back to 20 or 25 officers. I don't know what the justification would be, what led them to absolutely know that they could go ahead and scale that back. Now they learn in hindsight that he was holding hostages literally right under their nose. So I think that's a difficult explanation why that sheriff wouldn't have accepted all of the assistance being offered. And you wonder if they had a lost 6-year-old child on that mountain, how many thousand police officers might have been used to look for him. Here you have a dangerous killer that's murdered people already, bound to murder more, and it doesn't sound like it was the most intensive manhunt that it could have been. Now, maybe there was more to that than we realized, but I know it was bad weather, so they couldn't use aerial assistance last weekend during the heavy snowstorms, so that would have meant the need for more ground personnel to actually do these searches door to door. I don't understand that lack of using the assistance that has been offered from the beginning.
We're going to learn a lot more, and there's going to be a news conference, we're told, at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll, of course, carry that. Thanks very much for that, Tom Fuentes. Tonight, by the way, Anderson Cooper devotes his entire hour to this story, 9 Days of Terror, The Hunt for Christopher Dorner, 8 p.m. Eastern, only here on CNN.